United States of America is not as good because our people are always looking forward to become good doctors, good IT people, good scientists, and good everything else. But politically, they've been very, very weak. And unfortunately, we picked up few people like Pramla Jayapal, Ro Khannas of the world, and they have sort of ditched us, put us under the bus. And now that's why we thought all the Americans should get together, especially as a Hindu identity, so that we become good Hindus, good Dharmic people who have some guidelines, some values, theology, philosophy, not as a religion, but as a civilization, as a culture. We want to unite them
Yes.
together and bring them together so that we can
Yeah.
be a critical voice in America,
Yeah.
which can
Yes.
be heard. And we've got to, with the right people here, educate those politicians and everybody else, and also field
Yes.
our own people. We have fielded
Yeah.
our own people like Nisha Sharma, Ritesh Tandon, Manga Anantamullah, and many others pro-Hindu ideology, congressmen, senators. We are also helping and supporting. We are funding them. We are raising
Yes.
money. We are raising manpower, a lot of members,
Yes.
and trying to unite them to help these people so that we can be a political identity and power in Washington, D.C., and everywhere else in America. Then only we can help our Hindus worldwide, not only in India, but we think we can help them all over.
Yeah.
Being in America, we can be open, we can speak anything we want, and this is the
Yes.
liberty and freedom which we have. And we want to make sure our justice, our non-violence ideology,
Yes.
truthfulness, we can emanate like you've been doing it worldwide all these years. So we are very much inspired by you, and we want to get some more guidance from you to help
Yeah.
us unite these people and move
Right.
forward into the future. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
बहुत thank you very much.
So, on behalf of Americans for Hindus, I welcome all of you, and especially Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who has been a great guide, inspiration for millions of Hindus around the world. I think he has one of the largest following amongst the Hindu community, and in his contribution, right from the early days of emergency, even before that, till now, including Ram Mandir. Unfortunately, whatever be the situation on the ground, but it is single-handedly his effort has been stupendous, and we as American Hindus give him full credit for that. So, as a president of Americans for Hindus, I really welcome our chairman, Dr. Ramesh Japra. On behalf of all Americans for Hindus, I welcome Dr. Swamy. And one thing to say, Hindus in America is a larger denomination just Indians, because Indians means that only from India, but Hindus are from Jamaica, Fiji, Nepal, Bhutan, South
Right.
America, American Hindus,
Right.
new converts to Hinduism. And
Right.
we have a lot of yoga community, large yoga community, 45 million Hindus, India, Americans follow yoga today. So yoga, reincarnation, karma, these are the household words today. So when we talk
Yeah.
about Hindu or celebrate Hinduism, and today I can proudly say Jai Shri Ram on August 5, which is a new Ram Mandir is coming. So it is all our collective heritage, and not just Hindus from India are celebrating. Today morning I had a
Right.
session. Hindus in Chile
Right.
are celebrating. Hindus in Mexico are celebrating. Hindus in Brazil are celebrating, and
Right.
Hindus in Canada and America. So without delay, and I would like all of you, most of you are muted. So our
Yeah.
program runs like this. Dr. Swamy is speaking on taking Indo-US relations forward. And one thing I must tell you, the current ambassador to India is actually indirectly Dr. Swamy's choice, because he is the one who said, I want an American to come to India. And I was there in the
Yes.
state room. I was in that Department of State with Dr. Swamy when that happened. So I saw that miracle. And so there is a contribution we cannot count on fingers, but as long as Dr. Swamy is there, he has protected our interests very, very strongly and emphatically, and he has not shied away from speaking his mind on matters that matter to us. So with that, I really welcome it. And towards the end of the program, I would like to give credit and we'll get some chance to ask questions towards the end of the program. So without delay, let's hear from Dr. Swamy.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity for me because I have fond memories of the United States. I got my PhD there. I was a professor for some time there, and I worked under two of the most famous economists of the 20th century, and perhaps it will also be for the 21st century, Paul Samuelson and Simon Kuznets. Simon Kuznets was my thesis advisor, and Paul Samuelson was my joint author with me on a path-breaking paper on index numbers. So whatever personality I developed, I came at a very young age of 21 or 22, and then stayed till I was 30, and then went back frequently to the United States to teach on short-term basis. And so the American way of thinking, the American culture, and so many other things formed my personality, which today I have got a reputation for in India and Indian politics. Speaking bluntly is one of the things I learned in America. It became costly in the short run, but in the long run, people trust me much more because of my bluntness. So first of all, I would like to say that as far as Hindus are concerned, you're very right. We are concerned with all Hindus all over the world. And the Indian Constitution under Article 25, which is a fundamental right article, defines Hindus as those who are not Muslims and Christians in India. Funny definition, but it actually means it includes Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains, who are the religions which were founded in India. And we also make a distinction between theology and culture. And we think that we are all one people by culture in India. And we also think that our DNA is the same. All these bogus theories of foreign invasions and Aryans and Dravidians has now been rejected in India. And I hope your textbooks in America also, which many of you are fighting very valiantly, particularly in California, and that these books also get revised here. So with that introduction, let me first say that United States and India have many things in common, but most of all, I remember, and I've just written an article which will appear about next week in the media, which I'll send a copy to you about Indo-US relations. Supporting Indian independence, the first Anglo-Saxon country, that is the white people as they are called, the first country that supported us and vigorously was the United States. In World War II, Franklin Roosevelt wanted India to be considered, along with China, at that time led by Chiang Kai-shek, to be an equal partner in the war. But Churchill was obstinate and he said, no, it's our colony and you can't put them on the same table as us. So that's why India could not become a member of the Security Council when the United Nations was formed in 1945. And again, the United States, when China became communist and Chiang Kai-shek's government was thrown out, that time, John Foster Dulles contacted ambassador, who was the sister of Jawaharlal Nehru, Vijayalakshmi Pandit, and told her, and this is now all documented in your declassified documents, told her that the United States would like now India to take the place of China. And we'll worry about China as the sixth country later on, but right now, the five of the five, India should be one. And to lo and behold, to the surprise of everybody and all of us who only have learned now after I dug it out and put it on the public domain, that Jawaharlal Nehru said, no, this seat belongs to China. It may be communist, it may be Buddhist, it may be anything, but it's China, and it belongs to China, and we will not, at the Chinese cost, uh, take this seat. I mean, he could have easily said, okay, we'll accept it, but we will argue and campaign for communist China to be also brought in. But instead of that, he sacrificed the Indian opportunity to be a member of the Security Council in 1950. The United States also tried to bring the Marshall Plan that you had for Europe, which transformed Europe from a completely devastated country to a developed country by liberal doses of money, technology, personnel, and so on. The same plan they offered to India, but Jawaharlal Nehru said no, he will adopt the Soviet economic planning of command economy, where the government owns everything, and we will neglect agriculture and extract resources from agriculture and finance heavy industrialization, which was really importing Soviet industrial equipment, which were all bulky and out of date. So we really have missed an opportunity. Of course, the United States finally got desperate or upset being rejected so many times. So they ended up partnering with Pakistan, and that led to the past. Now, finally, we have reached a stage where the Indians have also, new generations have come up, and they don't have any great fond memory of Jawaharlal Nehru and his politics and his theology. And so we are now in a mood to cooperate with the United States. We have, even in this 21st century, missed some lovely opportunities where we could have transformed ourselves with the help of the United States if we had been sympathetic to the United States requests for sending troops to Iraq. Our Deputy Prime Minister then, Mr. Advani, agreed, but Mr. Vajpayee ruled it in a very crude way by bringing a resolution against US intervention in Iraq. Now, recently, Narendra Modi too, I had expected better of him, but he also turned down the offer that Afghanistan, where Indians are very welcome, and we have done a lot of civil works in Afghanistan. And of course, you may know that Afghanistan has been historically a part of India. And in Mahabharat, the most wicked characters were from Afghanistan, like Shakuni and Gandhari. She came from Kandahar, what is now called Kandahar. So we were again asked to take over Afghanistan. And the Americans were willing to back us in military hardware, which will come. The most advanced weapons in India, in the world today, are with the United States, not with Russia or China. And so we missed another opportunity. But after this rude shock, Mr. Narendra Modi, in particular, got from the Chinese, because he had spent 18 one-to-one meetings with Xi Jinping over the last 5 years. And it all came to naught. And so after this, I think there's now a very deep realization that we must now partner with the United States. And of course, we have some partnerships. One is the Quad, where Japan and Australia, India, and the United States partner in the Pacific, the Indo-Pacific, what the Americans have renamed from Asian Pacific Ocean to Indo-Pacific Ocean. We are flattered. And I must say, strategically, we are very, very well placed for a future strategic partnership with the United States, because Indonesia is also sympathetic to us and sympathetic to the United States. And Indonesia and India together control the Malacca Strait, through which 95% of the Chinese foreign trade traffic passes through, coming in from the eastern coast of China towards the Indian Ocean, and it has to go through a narrow area like the Suez Canal, which is called the Malacca Strait. And it's if that is developed, because the Andaman Islands and the Nicobar Islands are very close to the Malacca Strait, and so that could be a operating base within Indonesia, and the United States participation. And that would mean a huge transformation of the ocean, the naval power of the world. So there are many opportunities. We have other countries, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, of course, Thailand. These countries also would be willing to join, provided we can be an effective force against their troubles that they have with China. And so a new era is opening, and I think Americans for Indians have a big role to play. Americans for Hindus, the organization has a big role to play. Now, we may later on expand to Americans for Hindustanis, if you want. But at the moment, I think the divisions amongst the Hindus is so severe. Even in the United States, you have community celebrations, very few national, integrated Hindu celebration. I think the Americans for Hindus should now start reaching out to Buddhists in America and Jains and Sikhs. Sikhs also need to be won over. A lot of injustice has been done to them, which we must frankly admit, and not get into petty you too, me too quarrels. And so Sikh, Buddhist, Jains, Parsis also have very long links with us, but the Zoroastrians, but they are such a small community where they may feel threatened by joining this ocean. But I think we also must take the Americans on. Now, I was very surprised when Julia Roberts, a very famous actress, chose to become Hindus, not only with her husband, but their children too. And there are many others. And they should be also brought in and made a part of it. First of all, let us be clear what Americans and Hindus have in common. And in general, because Hindus are 82% in India, India is in fact Hindu dominated. There's no doubt about that. Everybody accepts that. Only that we are committed to the Constitution, which allows all religions to have the same rights in terms of its profession and its faith. So therefore, although many of our temples have been destroyed in the past by mobs that coming from Islamic mobs coming from outside, but we choose the court route to take it back. And Ram Mandir is an example that we waited 500 years. I mean, at no stage we ever thought of any violence. People cite the demolition of the masjid, but it was not a masjid. It was never functioning as a masjid after 1935. And after 1949, Hindu idols were placed inside it and worship started, and from outside the structure. But Rajiv Gandhi then got it locks removed, and so people went inside, and it was functioning as a temple. And so I don't think that, and even in this judgment, we agreed. Although the Muslims on the Muslim organizations didn't have any stand on fundamental rights, they had only a claim on property. They didn't claim any fundamental right to be there in where the mosque once stood. But still, we set aside 100 acres for the Muslim community to build in the district of Ayodhya, which in old days used to be called Faizabad. District to build a mosque. So even with the Muslim community who are originally from India, I would say that in the United States, I think we should have no hesitation in having a dialogue with them and making them understand what we are up to. But most important of all, the Hindus, if they can come together, first the Hindus must come together before we can talk to anybody else. But Hindus who are Americans need to, foster this proximity that is now there between India and the United States. And these are four different things. First of all, we are both secular countries. We have a dominant religion. In America also, the Christians are 75%. In India, the Hindus are 82%, including our, on the constitutional definition of including the Sikhs and the Buddhists and Jains also with us. And the second shared value is democracy. We are the only ones who are in, if you look at our neighborhood, there have been occasionally democracies, but then they have collapsed. Some became military dictatorships and so on. But we have continued as a functioning democracy. And the best example of is that the 1977 election, when the previous 6 years or 4 years, Mrs. Gandhi was running a total dictatorship, suspending the constitution in what was called the emergency, in which I escaped to the United States and despite an arrest warrant, and I stayed in the United States and campaigned, and the Voice of America and the BBC and American newspapers, including the ones that are attacking us today for being a bit Hindu-minded, namely New York Times and Washington Post, played a major role in publicizing the fact that India was, the democracy has been taken away. Mrs. Gandhi was defeated. And she herself told me when she returned back to power after some years that it was really the campaign in the United States which made her life very difficult. And that's why she risked holding an election. And when the time the elections were declared and I decided to go back and contest the elections, which I won from Bombay, all my colleagues at Harvard who had given me back my old job for teaching, they all told me, don't go. I mean, how can democracy be, preferable to a guaranteed life of income and basic necessities, which dictatorships do provide. So they thought that the third world was anyway condemned to become all dictatorships because of poverty. But what we found in the end is that the more prosperous, relatively more prosperous India, the South India, the 4 states of South India, is relatively much more educated part of India, namely this 4 states of South India. They all voted for Mrs. Gandhi. It's the uneducated, illiterate mass of UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Himachal, Haryana, and Punjab, which not only defeated Mrs. Gandhi's party by wiping out completely every seat the Congress party lost. And even Mrs. Gandhi was defeated, her son was defeated. And that's how the Janata Party got its majority, not because of the educated, prosperous, relative prosperous South India, but they got it because of these poor states. So they, despite the poverty, because of our long tradition, culture which has been surviving, it's the longest surviving civilization in the world. After the 46 civilizations the world has known, 45 have disappeared. And India is the only continuing civilization. And this civilization, so this value we share with America, and we learn from America. America has a constitution, we have a constitution. Britain doesn't have a constitution. We decided when we became free that we will have a constitution just like the United States. And your, although you don't call it fundamental rights, but your rights, which you have given the Bill of Rights, is what we've incorporated, and that made our constitution the constitution unique for the whole of Asia. The second thing is, after 1990, when after the Nehru influence completely waned, in fact, I had the privilege of coming in that time as a senior most Minister of Commerce and Law. I had 2 portfolios. And I began the process of what I always believed in market economy, competitive market economy. I don't say capitalist economy because we have certain welfare commitments. So market economy. And there the United States and India have much to exchange. You have technology, you're the masters of innovation, and every economist knows that growth rates that have accelerated around the world are due to 65% due to new innovations. and only 35% to more capital and more skilled labor. More capital, more skilled labor give you only 35% of the growth acceleration, whereas 65% come from innovations. And you know that the United States for the last 150 years has been bringing one innovation after another, latest being, of course, the computer and the internet, which has completely transformed the way we live. So this is an area where we have also contributed, especially in the software area. Our Hindus in the United States have done it. And there is respect for it. There is no question that Indians enjoy a certain respect for their intellect. We are not united, but as a people in the Hindus are not united in the United States. But I think as a group perception, we are respected. So, and third is we have the first part is we have shared values, and those values are always the most durable values and is necessary for the whole world, not only for the United States and India. Second is we have common challenges now. We have come over the whole business of, being friends with everybody with crazy ideas, Sarva Dharma Samabhav, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, all that is now out. What we are now thinking is how to partner with the United States to show China its place. Because China has, in my opinion, I've been a great friend of China. I speak Chinese. I have written books on the Chinese economy. I've been numerous times to China. And I would love to India and China to be friends because we have common shared history. We have common shared culture. You have to read their own authors like Hu Shi, who talked about the Indianization of China when he came in 1936 to Harvard to give a lecture. So there are a lot of similarities, but the Communist Party being there, they have their own calculus, which there's no room for bilateralism in that. And so arbitrarily, after agreeing to a boundary, and that to a temporary boundary called the line of actual control, which was negotiated by Narasimha Rao's government in 1993 and signed in Beijing by Narasimha Rao and Li Peng, that time was the prime minister. And they together signed it. So it's an agreed line, agreed that is not marked on the ground, it's not demarcated, but the line is line. And when you cross in kilometers of 200 square kilometer areas and so on, then there's no question that the map is not properly drawn or it is not demarcated. The fact is they have crossed it, they are still sitting there, and they are not leaving. They are only talking about disengagement. They are not talking about retreating or status quo ante. So I think the sentiment of the Indians have been very, very badly heated, hurt. And I think for a long time, it will be very difficult to turn around and be friends with China again. And the United States seems to have also come after literally developing China into a great economic power. I mean, the amount the Americans did is unbelievable. The whole Chinese economic revolution is due to a simple fact that the Americans allowed East Asian countries to send their semi-processed goods to China. And then the American companies collaborated with Chinese companies and joint ventures to value add to these semi-processed goods and then export it at a much higher price than the cost of inputs to Europe and to the United States, where most favored nation clause, etc. The doors were open for the Chinese. The tariffs were kept low. All this, the Americans' contribution to Chinese growth. Of course, Chinese are hardworking people that took advantage of it. But the fact is that the United States did so much. And in the end, now you are realizing that we have a problem. And so this problem, we have to unite. And India is a country with 1.3 billion people, a huge army. We have logistics against China. We have the support. It's on our side. China has long supply lines to come to across Indian border. We have very short supply lines. And we have shown even in this short hand-to-hand combat that we had in in Ladakh recently, that despite our openly declared 20 casualties, deaths, the Chinese have not officially declared it, but the estimates vary from 43 to 113. 113 because of a defector from China to United States made that statement, and 43 is the estimate of our army, which we can't make public. We want the Chinese to declare it instead of us declaring it. So I'm saying that today the uh, Chinese factor has made India's security, um, uh, you know, almost coterminous with the United States. And the United States is tired of sending troops and getting killed in various areas. And India and most of these hot areas are now in the Indian Asian region. And India has a huge population, a huge army, and this army has, for the United Nations operations, has shown to be highly efficient. Even in World War One and World War Two, the Indians played the frontier role in winning the war, but we never got the credit. From Normandy to all the way to Germany, the people who led the columns were Indian soldiers. The British deliberately put them in front, and with the valor they reached Germany, and then only the British troops took over. But nowhere in the history it is in Africa. Rommel's defeat, the Indian soldiers played the major part, but no credit for it because we are a colony. So we were not given the credit. That history needs to be read. So United States capital and Indian labor, and the two together, their innovation, will transform the world. And so for you, you have got a huge historic task before you and a wonderful opportunity because you all lived in a developed society where you have got the best education and you are now well placed to know the frontier areas of research. And therefore, I would say our values, our challenges, our solutions to, we want intellectual property right, you do want it too. We want to do R&D because we know innovations produce growth. That's also what we want to do. We have a solution to the Asian security through the Quad, and now we have formed it. And we have shared culture now increasingly, as it was mentioned, and that's my last comment. Yoga, meditation. I see in all our Sri Ravi Shankar, Mama Ramdev, and so on, their ashrams, so many Americans come there to learn how to be happy. It's not how to be prosperous. That the Americans have shown the whole world, but how to be happy. And that is a different school, dimension of life. And there the Americans are increasingly coming and learning about how to meditate, what kind of philosophy you should have, how Bhagavad Gita can keep you happy even in the worst possible circumstances. And therefore, and this is now called in your corporate world, according to Business Week, as stress management based on Hindu principles. So, how to maintain calmness, how to be with equanimity, how to face failures and successes with a certain stability of mind. These are all some things that our ancient traditions teach us. And that's why the Indians have borne so many things. Indians have never lost a war. It took us 600 years, but we defeated in 1795 the Mughals decisively. That was the end of the Mughals. The Mughals disappeared after that. The British it took us 150 years, but we defeated them too. And the tenacity, the determination, the patience to wait is the hallmark of the Hindu. And therefore, this is where India and the United States together can make the world a more democratic world, a more peaceful world, and where human rights, individual rights will become very important. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Swamy. And I would like to invite one question from Judajit Senji. There is a one question by him about the Bengal politics, and if he wants to, let me unmute him. So Judajit ji, please go ahead.
Namaste, Swamiji. I hope you can recognize me. We met in Virat Hindu Sangathan in
Yes,
Kolkata with
yes, that's right.
Indranilda and all of that, and had a
Yes.
privilege to give us the, so Swamiji today from, under Dr. Saab's leadership and, Aditya ji and all under American for Hindus, we Bengali Hindus from all across the world, we have started this organization NRIs for Bengal, where we are trying to bring all the Hindu diaspora, ensuring that real change happens, the real saffronization happen. And as we understand, if we can bring changes in saffronization in Bengal, that is kind of a 360 degree. And that we are in a pivotal time. And Dr. Swamiji, I mean, amazing fan following from you. I mean, I have my friends joining from Dubai at 5 a.m., from Australia in the morning, UK. All our Bengali friends have joined to listen to you. Dr. Saab knows Dr. Jafraji, who is our, like my father. And Swamiji, I mean, we are, question to you, Swamiji, we are seeing when we are from NRIs from Bengal, we are trying to do a lot of things. One of our NRI for Bengal, Rudra, one of my brother from NRI from Bengal, and a lot of us, we are trying to raise the voice against the dictatorship going on there. We've been threatened, we have been, accused, even being in US, we are hearing, but we are passionately trying to bring it to ensure that real change and the Hindu life saves. So we look at you as our, everybody, every Hindu who raised for the voice, who look at you as their master. So please advise us, what do we do and how we ensure that those people who are threatening us or these jihadis and fascists cannot, stop us. Dhanyavad ji.
Well, first of all, I know Mamta Di very well personally. I've known her for a long time. She entered Lok Sabha in 1977. I was also there in Parliament from that time. And she fought the communists like nobody else has fought. And it's a tribute to her that she uprooted 32 years of continuous communist rule, where they subverted everything, all educational institutions, and threw them off. But she has one paranoia which we have to try and cure, because I'll give you two examples, two points about her before I tell you what to do. She is worried that if at any time the Muslim electorate leaves her, they will go to the communists only. They won't go to the BJP. And therefore the CPM will be back. And once they are back, it'll be terrible. So therefore, she goes to these great extremes. And of course, they are very extremists, but I have one example of dealing with her. There is a temple in Hooghly called Tarkeshwar Mandir, one ancient Shiva Mandir. And one day, Mamta ji decided that that whole Hooghly will be handed over to the Minister for Urban Affairs to beautify it, because Hooghly, a lot of dirt, this thing, pollution, all this was there. And she was trying to develop Hooghly. So she handed it over to her and said, you beautify Hooghly, the Hooghly area. Now, Tarkeshwar is in Hooghly. And so the minister made a statement that he will also beautify the temple, thinking that will be received very well. So I objected. I took a very strong objection. I said, no government can beautify a temple. That's the temple's business. If you want to assist the temple, that's another matter. But you can't take over the temple and then say, I will beautify it. I fought in Uttarakhand also recently a court case which I got partial success, but I want full success. So I'm going back to the Supreme Court in appeal, where the BJP government took over temples. I opposed it. So this is an ideological belief of mine. And so I was very upset when I learned that this ancient temple will be handled by a minister of urban development who is also Muslim. So therefore, and of course, all our Hindu friends in Bengal were very upset. They wanted me to go to court and get it cancelled and all that. So I said, let me try whether she will come around. And all of them said, no, she will not come around, especially because the minister is a Muslim. So I contacted her and she invited me for a meeting. And because she knows me, so she invited me for a meeting. And there's one of your MPs there, Derek O'Brien, who played a major role in seeing that the meeting took place. And in that meeting, she had all her officers there. She said, what's your problem? I said, my problem is that you have given Hubli to a Muslim minister, and the Tarkeswar temple is there, and he says he's going to beautify it. He can't interfere in this matter. So she said, well, you want me to remove his jurisdiction over the temple or the Hooghly? I said, no, only over the temple. She says, then I will do it if you want one condition. I said, what's the condition? Don't say Muslim minister, just say minister. So I said, yes, the government should not take over Hooghly, the temple, the Tarkeswar temple. And she issued immediately a geo withdrawing his jurisdiction of the Tarkeswar temple. So I have a feeling that somewhere she, I don't know. I mean, we are growing, but the question is whether the BJP can become a ruling party or not. And she is having, I mean, every day she takes a more extreme step, and the Hindus are very upset with her. And the people who come from Bangladeshis, many of them are criminals. They use all kinds of violence. So many of our Hindus are being killed, butchered, maimed. So many of the women are being kidnapped. You know, all kinds of horrible things are happening in independent India, which makes us all very ashamed. We got a very good governor there. He's a lawyer, and I knew him as a young lawyer also when he was a young lawyer. He is a tough guy, and he's but his powers are limited under the constitution. So somewhere I think the Hindus must sit down in Bengal and decide: shall we make one last attempt to see if she and the BJP could come together? Of course, that automatically means that the Muslims will desert her, but there's a change. We are dividing her Hindu vote. Those who are voting en bloc for her, in that we are dividing. So in the end, what may happen is that nobody will get majority. And after that, a coalition can come. And we certainly will never have a coalition with the communists. So what I would say is, keep going on your Hindu program. Keep criticizing her, sending it, but at no stage it should appear that she is a bigger enemy than the CPM, because there have been schools of thought amongst Hindus in Bengal that maybe we should collaborate with the communists to bring her down. That would be a disaster, which the Congress committed, and therefore Congress has never recovered its original strength because of that mistake which Mrs. Gandhi made in 1969. And so the communists, absolutely no regard for anything which is democratic or the constitution. And therefore, under no circumstances we should facilitate their coming, either directly or on our shoulders. And in that, I think when the Bengal, the BJP and the Hindu parties there agree with me, I'll be happy to come and play a role there and keep her also a little more, moderate than she is presently towards the Hindus, or more appeasement of the appeasement that she does of the Muslims will also get diluted.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Swamy, for this wonderful reply. Americans for Hindus, even though we started 6 months back and we are pretty well organized, and I think will be shortly recognized by the Trump campaign also. And many of our trustees are also online. Before I give the call to trustees, one of our candidates, Nisha Sharma, who is running from CA 11, would like to say a few words. Nisha Sharma ji, please keep it short. so that we can honor the time. Can someone unmute her, please? Yeah, go ahead, Nishaji.
Namaskar, Swamiji. My name is Nisha Sharma, and I'm running
I've
for
heard you.
Congress in District
Yes,
11.
I've heard your name.
Oh, thank you so much. Actually, I met you back in 2017 at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Back then, when our Pranab Mukherjee was our president, and I had a quick meeting with you. It was an honor then and again here. I'm a proud and a dedicated Hindu woman. I chose this fight because the motto was to oppose Hindu phobia and anti-India propaganda here,
Good.
which they are spreading all across here. And the main driving force which has pushed me, because I'm a mother of 3 kids here and a business entrepreneur, I'm not going to stop, and I'm not going to take the lip service anymore. We come from a country, India, that's my Janmabhoomi, and they taught us to fight for truth. And here I also doing the same, because I want to keep up my values here alive for upcoming generations. And my question to you, sir, just advise us how long Hindus will take it lying down like this. Because now finally we woke up, and some of us have decided to take this battle and fight head on. But how to ensure that we have the entire community actually wake up and rally behind the make this movement win? Let our voices reach and reach the real representation at Capitol Hill. So please guide us, because this is really important battle for us and a very awakening time for our Hindu religion people.
Well, I think judging by my experience, when I first joined Jansang in 1970, everybody thought I was mad, because Jansang was in the range of 10 to 15 seats in Lok Sabha, and nothing more, and nobody ever thought it will ever come to power, and certainly not with absolute majority. What I learned from Indian history or Hindu history is that the basic common sense of Hindus is very, very strong. But they are so individualistic that to come into a formal grouping takes a lot of time. Even Mahabharata war, which, Krishna had such a problem convincing people that now the war is the only alternative. And that's why in desperation, he went even to Duryodhana and said, just give us 5 villages, and because one for each Pandava, and 5 villages, and you keep both Indraprastha and Hastinapur. But his arrogance was such that he said, no, I will not even give the space that you find on the tip of a needle. And then the Mahabharata took place. Then everybody got convinced. Now there is no alternative but for a war. Emergency also the same thing. We kept informing our people. Indira Gandhi has got communist colleagues, and they want the constitution to be submitted, to be subverted. Jayaprakash Narayan had a huge reputation as a freedom fighter and a man of great nobility and a Tyagi. And even people came in crowds, but he could not. He was he himself became despondent, I know, because he had originally come in 1968 when he was almost forgotten by the whole of India. And he came to Harvard for sightseeing, and I was teaching that time. So the university's warden, who looks after visitors, called me up and asked me whether I could show him the campus. So, but I knew him because my father was also in the freedom movement. And he knew him. So therefore I jumped at that opportunity. So I came to know him very well. And he thought that, by being goody-goody, Sarvodaya, trying to persuade people individually, that will work. But then I told him that in India it doesn't work. You have to have a movement. And for that, you will start, and then it will start building up. And that's how he started that movement of anti-corruption. And it grew big and big. Even this time, in 2014, when our party came, it was mainly on the anti-corruption bill and the anti-corruption. And the success we got in the 2G spectrum came in Supreme Court, and the conviction came to people, yes, this is. So what you have to do is not look for a formula. It doesn't happen that with Hindus. Hindus suddenly click in one place, and it happens. So all you have to do is keep at it. Don't lose hope and don't be despondent. And you will find one day things will change. Hindus never should be taken for granted. People took it for granted during emergency because after Mrs. Gandhi clamped it down, nobody wanted to oppose it. And then all this, the trains running on time, officers are coming to office, all this propaganda was being run. But slowly, the vast majority of Indians and even the Muslims had to come because of the vasectomy atrocities of Sanjay Gandhi. So even they ultimately began to come with us. But the Hindus were the ones who led the revolt and ultimately defeated Mrs. Gandhi, which was thought impossible all over the world. So I think in the United States, you are a pioneer. And as a pioneer, the first thing you should have with dealing with Hindus is never lose hope. Because he's a thinking animal, he thinks too much all the time, this one, that way, he can, alternatives, all this. But in the end, it'll all click and you'll ride a wave, if not this election, but next election. But definitely, it will ride a wave, and that is what you should do. I think more and more propagation must continue, and this kind of organization you formed will be helpful. You should hold meetings, you should remove all these things that we have been brainwashed by the British to make us feel inferior and have no confidence in ourselves. And these petty jealousies, all these things we have to campaign against. But in the end, the Hindus have survived all through history, and they will also survive in creating a new United States where the Hindus stand united against any atrocities that might be done by people who don't want Hindus to be united.
Thank you so much for encouraging us. And under the flag of A4H, under the leadership of Dr. Japra, Adityaji, we will keep this fight continue, and we will never lose hope. Thank you so much.
Dr. Swamy, we have a mantra: if you are not on the table, we are on the menu. And so that's what is happening. And also we say, the duck which quacks the loudest gets a cracker. So we have to quack louder, and we have to keep asking, because like you said, that Hindus, we don't ask. All the politicians, all the Hindus are confused. What are you asking? What should I do? And we are not able to tell in a coherent voice what we want. So I have a few more trustees who would like to speak up. And Dr. Shobha from Illinois, please go ahead.
Yes.
Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you, Aditji. And a couple of quick announcements I would like to make. I'm Dr. Shobha. So I went to Madras Medical College. So, Vikram, 1 year I'm senior. So please say hello to both of them. And I want to also congratulate and immensely thank you for teaming up with Ishkaran Singh Bandari on the Sushant Singh Rajput. May God be with your team. There are a lot of concerned people. I've never watched one movie of his. I've seen his dance, but an individual to come up to this level. Please, I was very happy when I heard you're taking up. Now, I want two questions, sir, about the US and about India. First, and I think it's a hand of God that has delivered the world's goodwill towards India. I mean, we have now, like you, the Chinese people are fine, but the people's, the party is really has shown its true color. So how can, I think we are at a brink watershed moment. How can India really make use of this? We want our, we don't want to be called a developing nation anymore. How can we improve all our people? Because see, that always is there in the heart of every Indian American here. We are always helping, in Ekal Vidyalaya, so many ways. And so how can we make use of this spot to get that manufacturing, to get our textiles, our Ayurveda to the world? And regarding the US, you're the best person to weigh in on this because you've lived here and there. The US city councils are passing resolutions after resolutions against India, against the CAA. In fact, I was actually at another meeting where the Additional Solicitor General of India, Venkatramanji, is also giving a talk. He's been invited, tomorrow's too. This has become a major hassle where Indian American children are actually being discriminated in universities, saying, are you all becoming like Nazi and Hitlers? And yeah, I know. And they are calling home. This is a true incident. They've called home from New York University, back home to their parents. So please weigh in on, economy for India and a true strength because of US acting as the big brother and then in the city council. So thank you so much. Great to meet you in person, sir.
First of all, I don't blame the enemies of Hindus in the United States for what they're doing, because they have a problem. So far, the entire politics of India from 1950, when the elections, 51, 52, when the first elections took place, till 2014, was essentially dividing the Hindus on their caste, region, language, Aryan Dravidian theory, this, that, everything they could think of dividing the Hindus, they divided, and united the minorities by appeasing them, letting them do what they want, letting Christian missionaries come and convert, pay money, induce money, convert. This was the politics of India. And the net result is that the parties which appeased the Muslims and the Christians and the sophisticated English-educated Hindus was getting elected repeatedly. The only error Mrs. Gandhi made was to impose the emergency, and then that revolt brought Janata Party. But the Janata Party soon cracked up, and Mrs. Gandhi came back. And again, we had about a decade of Congress rule. And followed up by another decade of coalition Congress rule. So therefore, the turnaround took place when the Hindu consolidation began to be openly argued. And for that, a lot of people had to suffer. For example, during the UPA rule, they created something called Hindu terror. And even the Bombay, the Taj Mahal Hotel and the 2611, as we call it, was really aimed to put the blame on the Hindu terror. The concept of Hindu terror was invented at that time. But it fizzled out because one of the terrorists who came dressed as a Hindu Pandit with tika and, with all red thread tied around his waist and so on. He got caught without being killed. And then he spilled the beans that they were from Pakistan. Otherwise, all the terrorists we shot in the Taj Mahal Hotel and in the Oberoi Hotel, they were all dressed as Hindus would be normally dressed, in the dhoti kurta, not even pajama kurta, and with tika and all that. So the idea was to put the blame on the Hindus, and it fizzled out because of this one freak accident of a constable managing to catch that Kasab, as he was known as, whom we hanged in the end. So what happened is that the Hindu consolidation began essentially with this Ram movement, because people felt this gross injustice that, you just want one temple and these people are making such a big hullabaloo. And that Hindu consolidation is now unstoppable. And it's going on because this brief period, we have at least created the knowledge that history books are destroyed and so on. So now the biggest losers are those who used to leverage the minorities in India. And therefore, this whole campaign is running all over. I was surprised to see a Muslim, but who is an Under Secretary General of the United Nations, misquoting me in such a way that as if I said that Muslims do not deserve equality. I had even problems with Harvard University because the left wing in the religion department especially those who are Christians and Muslims, they targeted me saying that I said that Muslims should not get voting rights. I never said any such bland statement. As far as equality is concerned, when the matter of CAA came to the parliament, party asked me to speak on it because I know the law. So I said the law says, because the list of people who were to get out of turn citizenship were all Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, Parsis, and Sikhs. They all had come to India on religious persecution. And having come to India on religious persecution, we gave them a fast track to get citizenship. And there was no Muslim in that list. Now, since these people all came from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, it is stupid to expect that a Muslim will come in any number to say that I have been persecuted religiously, because these are Muslim countries. And so I said that, you know, there's no Muslim name in the list, and therefore we have not mentioned Muslims. There's nothing surprising in that. They said, no, but we have equality. Muslims have equality to be citizens if they come from Pakistan or anywhere, Bangladesh, etc. And this equality you're denying. And then I pointed out to them that the Constitution, Article 14, does say that all are equal before the law. But the Supreme Court has interpreted that to mean that equality for equals. In other words, scheduled castes today and the backward classes today get reservations in jobs and in university admissions. But Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, they don't get it. So I, as a Brahmin, cannot go to the court and say, I have Article 14 right of equality. So if a scheduled caste or a backward caste gets reservation, I should also get reservation. So the Supreme Court said that is not the purpose of Article 14. That in a category, all are equal. But if you are not in that category, you are not equal, and you are in another category, you are not equal, as I gave you in this example. But that was twisted, saying that Swami said, you know, Muslims are not equal. Muslims are not equal. This is, you know, propaganda which is being spread by all the Islamic organizations. And now the liberals, Americans have taken it, and, you know, it gets repeated and repeated. Fortunately, I have filed a defamation case against the United Nations Under Secretary General. So they have become silent. I've also filed it against BBC. Even BBC carried it. And surprisingly, Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, in a speech he said that when a person of such stature in India says like this, what fate does the Muslims have, you know? So I would say that what you are having in the United States today is that you have to make sure that with the same articulation, you rebut these arguments, and you must do it without losing hope or faith, because at the moment they are in an establishment situation. And I'm sorry to say that some of the meetings in which one of your candidates, Mr. Biden, has spoken to these people, and in that he has again misinterpreted or been misled to say these horrible things about the Indian government having, targeting Muslims and Christians. In fact, Christians have been got citizenship in CAA out of turn. So you have to do it, you have to remove it, and you have to tell your children. I mean, for that you yourself must know. I mean, I find so many parents saying that we never knew after hearing my speech that Aryans and Dravidians is nonsensical. There is the word Arya, which only means a civilized person, a cultured person, and it doesn't mean any regional thing. In fact, Ravan was called an Aryaputra by his wife, Mandodara, so Dravidian is a regional term. Travid means where the three oceans meet, or the three coasts meet, and that's South India. So South Indians were called Dravidians. And this was a term invented by Adi Shankara in his debates that he held around the country. So, but the British took that. Aryans come from Europe, and if you're in the North India and the sun is not so bright, as it doesn't have a direct ray on your body, then you are likely to be lighter skinned than if you are living near the equator. Pigmentation has got nothing to do with race, but yet people use pigmentation as an indication of a different race. So all these things that the British masterly did and put into our syllabus, and Jawaharlal Nehru decided to continue with it, has done the damage, and we have to undo this damage only by constant preaching, challenging, and so on. Nobody now wants to come and debate with me on Hindutva, by the way. I find, because there are no arguments against me, but they will pick on somebody and then pick on some statement, twist it, and then put it across. So you have to be beware of that.
Dr. Swamy, as far as Joe Biden goes, we have a saying that when he says something, because it is on a part of his script, but in 15 minutes he's going to forget. So
he's a good man, actually. I knew him earlier, and I have some friends who know him very, very well. And they say, no, right now he's talking according to script. When he becomes president, he will be different. But anyway, this is for you people to decide who you want as your president, not me.
As for Americans for Hindus, we launched a Hindus for Trump campaign. And I think it's going to bound to make a difference on 13 constituencies in the US. And I'm really thankful to everyone who has joined today. And really thank you, Dr. Swamy, because it's very early in the morning for you coming on the show.
No, I wake up at 4 a.m., so no problem.
I know that. So, but thank you so much for coming, and also to Jagdish Shetty ji, Ramesh Swamy, and Dr. Japra. And I would also like to name and give credits to our trustees, Sharad Mohan and Dr. Debrata Ganguly, Subroto Gangopadhyay, and Dr. Shivam Sampath Shivangi, if he's there. Are you there, Dr. Sampath?
Yeah, he's there. So.
Okay. So, Dr. Sampath.
May I add something here?
Yes, please.
May I add something here? Two of the most well-informed American Hindus about India, in terms of what is available material. One is this N. Ramesh, Narayan Swamy Ramesh, who lives in New Jersey. The other is Sri Iyer. And as Sri Iyer is concerned, he's in fact running a website which has now become very famous in India because he's exposed to a lot of corruption because of his knowledge of so many things. So I think people like that should be called to address your organization. And because they are very clued into India, I can tell you that they know everything about India. They are constantly on their computer getting knowledge, and then in fact they inform me much more about India than I can afford in the time available for me to do research. So I think there are Indians like that, and you should bring them on board. Get your children to hear their lectures because they can speak an American idiom, and bring around people, draw up questions, 5 most or 10 most important questions that children ask you, which you find difficult to answer. You can ask these people, prepare answers to those.
Sher is always sitting in my right ear, so he's always there with me. So let me put on Dr. Sampath Shivangi. Please go ahead. I think he's
yeah. Can you hear me, Dr. Aditya?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Good morning, Swamiji. We have met several times, and
yes.
I'm in the Trump administration. I am the appointee, work for Trump. I've worked for George W. Bush. Just to briefly tell you, I'm very much interested in India-US relations, and I'm fighting for India for the last 45 years in the US. And of course, I started the revolution against Mr. Biden's remarks on CAA, and I even have challenged him to debate. And I am going to have a private meeting, one-on-one with Mr. Biden. And you know, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is going to join me. I'm a Republican, but she is a Democrat, but she is going to help me. She is going to arrange this meeting. And so I want to let him know. I don't think he's speaking. He has, what I learned is a Pakistani advising him. I don't think Biden knows, or he may not want to know. So we want to re-educate him. And my question to you was, CAA was done in a big hurry? Was it because we are not prepared? Because aftermath of CAA in India was not a very good reflection of India. And would you think we could have done better preparation? And of course, it's got Supreme Court now, and we have a.
The question is, whatever we had done, we would always be criticized for, because this was pending since 1948, 1947. The first person to say that these people should be given citizenship was Mahatma Gandhi himself, 1 month before he was assassinated. In a public meeting, he said, I now realize that Hindus and the Sikhs and the Christians and non-Muslims are not safe in Pakistan. If they come to India saying that they're being persecuted, they should be given citizenship. This is Mahatma Gandhi. And since then, these people have been living in tents. And there's a second generation, third generation, so on. No citizenship. So they don't get their Aadhaar card. They don't, they can't get a job. They can't buy, nobody will sell them a house. And they have to live in tents. And we put an end to this misery, you see. This, by the way, this is not an act which is there forever. This is only for those people who were 5 years, since the last 5 years, before 31st December 2014, were in India and had come because of religious persecution and were in the list that was maintained by previous governments. And this is now, CAA cannot be repeated. It's a one-time act or one-time amendment.
We wholeheartedly support it. There's no two questions about it. Only thing, we don't have enough lobbying efforts by the government of India. In US, people are most of the world capitals, because we are not done a good job, I would say, that to educate, the leadership of all these countries. I think we have lacked in our feeling or our support to lobbyists. Would you? I know you are the. First of all, I wish you were in the cabinet of the Modi government to rectify all this.
He and I can only come under some very, very adverse circumstances. But he doesn't like. He's a personal friend of mine. I've known him for a long, long time, and and personal cordiality is full. But he thinks that I am not manageable, and therefore he wants manageable people. But I had no problem with Narasimha Rao. I was his cabinet minister. I had no problem with Chandrasekhar. I was his cabinet minister. And I was one of the closest advisors of both Rajiv Gandhi as well as Morarji Desai. And they had no problem with me. But in his case, there is a problem because
I think because you are too smart. You are too smart for politician.
Basically, I will tell him on his face in the cabinet that you're wrong.
Yes.
For instance, he said I'll double GDP in 5 years. Well, if you double GDP, the growth rate is 14.4% per year in GDP. And how are you going to achieve that? But somebody told him, it's a very attractive slogan. Say it, and he said it. And then I told him when I met him in Parliament that you don't know economics. So please don't say these things, because the world will laugh. They won't tell you that they find it funny, but they will laugh. And then now he stopped talking about that doubling to $5 trillion. Because it's not in a position. Yeah. Yes, we can get a 14.4% per growth rate, but you need an economic policy for that, which he doesn't have.
I know, I understand.
So So, Sharad Mohan, please go ahead. You have question, Sharad Mohan?
Okay. Um,
Yeah, you're running out of
thank
time. Yes.
yeah. Thanks, Dr. Swamy, for enlightening us. Um, because of the time, I'll just ask one question. Since we are all Hindus here and we are working on the Hindu cause, both here in America and in India, and you have been our Hindu Hriday Samrat, why have we missed on Nepal, like our closest ally? And even though we can blame it under communist, whether communists did this or that, Nepal we could have really cultivated. Like there is no political party in Nepal which is India centric. Where are our RAWs and NIC and all those things? So that's my question, sir. How can we still bring back Nepal to our forum?
You know,
Thank you.
the King Birendra was a student at Harvard when I was teaching there. And then he became a great admirer. Then the emergency, he helped me escape the second time from India back to the United States. And he had suspended democracy, but under my persuasion, he ultimately agreed. He did it in doses, but he did it. And all in Nepal know that, and they say that, and they still remember that. There's no such thing, as you're saying, that there's no party which wants to be pro-India today. But there was a time when all parties were pro-India. And their leaders used to come regularly here for this thing. Some came as socialists, like they came to Chandrasekhar, or Koraila and all these people. Then there were other people, the king's people, who used to come and meet us. Over the years, especially after the UPA, when the Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and Yechuri of the communists, they decided that this concept of Hindu Rashtra for Nepal is a dangerous thing. And they are the ones who went, and Yechuri used to be almost posted there. They sent the most third-rate ambassadors from that point of view. And they managed to create a movement, and that movement was supported by Christian missionaries. And then, the Hindu Rashtra thing was removed from the constitution, and it became fashionable to become anti-Indian. Then we made mirrors. We decided to teach them a lesson by blockading. It's a landlocked country, and we blockaded. That hurt the people very, very deeply. And even today, that is the turning point. And this, by the way, was done first by Rajiv Gandhi when Sonia Gandhi was refused entry into Pashupatinath temple because she refused to say that she's a Hindu, which she's not. She was being honest there. She is a Christian, like a Roman Catholic. So they said, no, you can't enter. It was publicly done and it became big news, and she was seething for some action. So Rajiv Gandhi did that. And then after that, Mr. Modi did it. And they never expected that Modi would do it. Now, civil servants who have been dealing, it's not a very glamorous place to be known as a civil servant in the External Affairs Ministry looking after Nepal. It means that it's a punishment posting. This is how they regard. They would like to be known as in charge of the United States, Europe, that sort of thing. And so the people we had in charge of Nepal, they were constantly big brotherly. It happened in Sri Lanka, by the way, but Sri Lanka, fortunately, Rajapaksa and I became friends, and I steered him out of this bureaucratic route and connected him directly to Modi, and now we have the best relations. I think if there's any country in the neighborhood which has the best relations with India today, it is the Rajapaksa-led Sri Lanka. So that is the problem, and we have to win them back because the people of Nepal know that we need India, but they want India to behave as a not an elder brother, but another brother or a twin brother or common or close friend, something. But they don't want to be patronized, and that kind of politics, diplomacy, we have to usher, and then Nepal will change again.
So on Monday, Dr. Swamy is speaking on CAA on P-Gurus. So please do watch that. It's at 7:30 p.m., which is 8 a.m. In Indian time. Now we have vote of thanks from Dr. Japra, and then after that I'll conclude the meeting. Go ahead, Dr. Japra.
Thank you, Dityaji. And once again, बहुत धन्यवाद Swamiji for coming on board and inspiring all of us Americans here for Hinduism, Hindutva, Hinduness, our ideology, our philosophy, which we have taken up to make a political voice in America. I tell you, it was very, very profoundly done, enlightening, and I think we got a lot of knowledge today with your knowledge of history, which you presented very, very well with the current situation and a future where we can work together to not only get a voice, political empowerment in America, but also for the Hindus all over the world, especially in India, back home also, which is very, very dear to us. And we were very, very passionate about it because this is our Matribhumi, our roots are there. And as Hindus, we can always relate back to our Matribhumi. But in Karma Bhumi, if we are very, very successful, if we can unite together, the Josh you have brought in, the excitement you brought in, it's going to last long, and we'll remember you, probably even our donation for that. Once again, thank you on behalf of all the trustees. Some of the trustees didn't get an opportunity. Dr. Pavan Sharma and Dr. Jatinder Chopra and Dr. Subroto, Dr. Devbrata Ganguly, so many of them, put in their money where their mouth is, plus all the other members, soldiers who are working as grassroots level, or Karam Yogis, as I call them. I think thanks to them also, getting inspired from you. So we cannot thank you enough, Dr. Swamiji.
After Corona, I hope to come to the United States.
Absolutely. We would love to with our open arms.
On behalf of all the trustees also, I would like to thank all the trustees who could not ask questions. I was searching for many of you, but many of you spoke. Thank you so much for coming and joining and welcoming Dr. Swamy today. And we from Americans for Hindus, we really thank Dr. Swamy for giving his time. Really energized us, motivated us, and it's time for us to get back to our karma on making America is a great place for Hindus. We are well protected, their rights are protected, and also we have many leaders who have joined. Unfortunately, Ritesh, next time you can ask a question. Though Ritesh Tandon is a great leader from California 17, and he has also joined us. So thank you all for joining, and thank you, Dr. Swamy, and everyone else who organized. Namaskar. Thank you.